Hey everybody, it's Kylie and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a fun and easy crochet tutorial for y'all. I'm going to show y'all how to make this pretty one row repeat blanket. This blanket is a super easy pattern to adjust to make any size of blanket you want. So whether you want a baby blanket, a lap blanket, a twin size blanket, you want to make a king size blanket, you can easily adjust the pattern to make any size you want. So I used a fun stitch for this blanket called the grit stitch. The grit stitch is made of a one row repeat, so it's super easy. And you can just see the texture of the grit stitch. I just absolutely love how it worked up. And I used Mandala ombre yarn, which is one of my favorite Lion brand yarns that they have. And I'll show you here in a minute which color. The Lion brand Mandala yarn paired with a grit stitch just makes this absolutely beautiful blanket. And there's so many different color options in the Mandala ombre that you can find the perfect color combination no matter what type of blanket you're wanting to make, whether you want to make a brighter colored one or a more neutral tone one. They have different colors and that just works up so beautiful with this stitch. So I'm going to show y'all the exact yarn I use and the other supplies you'll need to make this blanket. Okay, so for this exact blanket, I used the Lion brand Mandala ombre yarn, and I used the color Mantra. And I used 5 skeins total of this yarn for the blanket. And the blanket that I made is approximately 36 inches by 41 inches. So it's a nice lap size blanket or even baby blanket. If you want a little bit bigger of a baby blanket. And I used 5 skeins in total just to give you an idea. So 5 skeins. And each skein has 344 yards. So you can kind of do the math because you could use any yarn for this blanket. Any worsted weight yarn would work great for this blanket. And you could probably even use a bulky weight yarn or even a lighter weight yarn. You would just have to change the size of your hook to match with whatever it calls for on the yarn. You can look on the skein of yarn and it'll tell you what hook size to pair with that specific yarn. So if you change the weight of yarn, just change your hook size out and it'll work great because this stitch works up great with really basically any size and weight of yarn. But for this specific yarn, I am going to use an I or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. But anyway, go grab your yarn and your crochet hook and I'm going to show you how to make this easy blanket. Okay, so I have made a slip knot and put it on my crochet hook, and like I mentioned, this blanket is approximately 36 inches wide. And to start this blanket pattern, you can start by chaining any odd number of stitches. So it depends on how big a blanket you want. So mine's approximately 36 inches wide, and I start with 119 chains. So if you want a smaller blanket or a bigger blanket, you can adjust it, but you can chain any odd number to start. But for this pattern, I'm just going to start by chaining 119 like I did for the other blanket. Okay, so I just chained 119 chains, and to start row 1, we are simply going to double crochet in the 3rd chain from our hook. So 1, 2, 3, and we'll double crochet. And I do want to mention that those 2 chain stitches that we skipped will count as a single crochet. And then going on, we are going to skip the next chain stitch and work a single and double crochet in the next stitch. So you're basically going to repeat that across. You're going to skip the next chain stitch and work a single crochet and double crochet in that next chain stitch. Skip a stitch, single crochet, double crochet in the next stitch. And you're basically going to repeat that until you reach your last 2 chain stitches. So I'm just going to repeat that across until I get to my very last 2 chain stitches and catch up with y'all then. Okay, so when you work all the way across for row 1 and you reach your very last 2 chain stitches, you're going to skip the next chain stitch and work a single crochet in that very last chain stitch, and that will finish up row 1. And this is what your piece should look like. So it should look like this. And going on to row 2, and then row 2 on is just a 1 row repeat for the rest of the pattern. So After you do row 2, you're just going to keep repeating row 2 for as many rows as you'd like. I did a total of 120 rows for my blanket, and it came out to be about 41 inches tall. Or you can just do it until you run out of yarn, which is basically almost what I did. So for row 2, you are simply going to chain 1, turn your work, and this chain 1 is going to count as a single crochet stitch. And you're going to double crochet in this first stitch here. And then you're going to skip the next stitch and work a single crochet and double crochet in the next stitch. So you're basically going to skip that double crochet from the previous row and work a single and double in that single crochet. So we're going to work a single crochet and then a double crochet stitch. And we're going to repeat this across. We're going to skip that next stitch, which is the double crochet from the previous row, and we're going to work into that next stitch and work a single crochet and a double crochet. And you're going to keep doing that. Skip the next stitch, single, double crochet in the next stitch. And that's literally how easy this blanket pattern is. Skip the next stitch, single and double in the next stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way across until I get to the very last 2 stitches and show you how to finish that. Okay, so I'll repeat that all the way across until I reach the last 2 stitches, and remember that that chain 2 from that first row counts as a single crochet, so it counts as a stitch. And row 2 on, it'll actually only be a chain 1, but so that chain 1 at the beginning of each row will count as a stitch. So when you get to your last 2 stitches, you'll get here and you'll think, oh, I only have 1 stitch. You gotta remember that chain will count as a stitch. So once you reach your very last 2 stitches, you will skip 1 stitch and single crochet in that very last stitch, which is gonna be that chain stitch, and that will end row 2. And this is what it will look like. And for the rest of the blanket pattern, you will simply repeat row 2. So row 3 and on will just be a repeat of row 2. For this blanket, like I said, I did a total of 120 rows, and it came out to be about 41 inches long. So I'll go ahead and get y'all started on one more row. So for row 3 and on, you will simply chain 1, turn your work. You're going to double crochet in this very first stitch. Then you're going to skip a stitch and single crochet and double crochet in the next stitch. And you're basically going to repeat that across. Skip a stitch, single crochet and double crochet in the next stitch. And you will repeat that all the way across until you get to your last 2 stitches. Skip the 1 stitch and single crochet in the very last stitch. And you'll repeat that until you have as many rows done as you need. And that's how easy it is to crochet this blanket pattern. I didn't choose to put a border around this blanket, so you'll just finish your rows, cut your yarn, and weave your ends in and finish it off, and that's how easy it is, because I didn't think this blanket really with a stitch and yarn needed a border. If you want to, you could single crochet around the edges or something simple, but it's basically just up to your choice or preference of what you like. And that's how easy it is to crochet this 1 row repeat blanket pattern. I hope y'all have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, be sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and check out my YouTube channel for other pattern tutorials and stitch tutorials, and happy crocheting, y'all.